This month on NightmareWorld, Any Day's PC explodes, Daz bricks the project, and all of us get confused by maths. When it comes to programming, this month was all about getting the fundamentals in place. Whereas last month we mainly worked on the building system, this month we also set up our server architecture, built core systems such as the skill system and the inventory. And we set up our first gameplay loop. However, any development process is littered with flaws and setbacks, so I'm going to start off by going through some of ours. Early in the month, Daz decided he wanted to make a joke out of what our game was named. Not its official title, but what UE4 recognises the game as. Dreamworld calls theirs Elysium, and Daz wanted to play off of that and called ours Musial. Muisel? Musaili? However, what he and I didn't realise at the time is that that's actually really hard to do. Renaming a project in UE4 is incredibly difficult. Doing this caused many things to break. The project literally wouldn't compile. We had to call in one of the owners of OWS to come and walk us through fixing it. More on him later. The point is, it turns out renaming a project is a lot harder than I thought it was, and I was wrong to take the piss out of Dreamworld for refusing to change theirs. After all, ours is stuck as Muesli now, which is Elysium backwards in case you haven't realised. Moving on to more positive progress, we actually did a lot of good work this month. Dazalius primarily focused on getting the foundations of the game working, starting with OSS Integration. Now, what is OWS? OWS stands for Open World Server. It is a UE4 plugin created by Saberdart Studios to make the process of building an MMO as easy and straightforward as possible, and it is fantastic. With OWS, the server architecture that would have taken us years to build has already been done for us, and it comes with more features on top of that. The whole system is going to save us so much time that we can now dedicate to giving a fun gameplay experience. Now, some of the people might say, oh, you're using plugins. Isn't that what you criticised all these scam games for doing? And it's not as black and white as that. Yes, we criticise scam games when they use marketplace content, but the difference is they often exclusively use marketplace content. After a week, Dreamworld looks at what $30 asset packs or plugin they can get, and that is the work that they've put into that week. We use plugins as a starting point and then utilise them alongside our own code and art. Quite often, plugins that we use do exactly the job we were looking for a very small price. After Daz got OWS integrated with his building system and my smithing system, he moved on to two core features of any MMO, skills and inventory. Now, both of these systems are subject to change, but as it stands, skills work on a very simple system. You do something, and you get XP in the related skill. Once you get enough XP, you gain a level in that skill and unlock new things you can do. Right now we have 20 skills planned, but this list is changing all the time and we'll only be implementing a few of them for the vertical slice. More in a minute on the XP curve. For the inventory, like with skills, we went for a very basic implementation. A set amount of inventory slots and items form into stacks. Now, the inventory is actually kind of janky right now, and Daz has said he wants to do a refactor on it. A refactor is a common thing done in coding projects, and this is something a lot of people don't even realise. The first time a system gets built, it's often not the same system that gets shipped in the final product. There are often several revisions and complete reworks of systems. Sometimes systems are cut out entirely and rebuilt from the ground up. It is just a thing that happens. And that's what Daz wants to do with the inventory. It works, but it's not the best way it could be done, and we all know that. Now, while Daz was doing all of this, I was working on a few things myself. I started work on a mining system, and that goes hand in hand with the gathering system as a whole. Currently, the mining system allows you to procedurally break rocks as the air quotation marks health of the rock gets lowered. There are 5 breakable pieces of the rock, and at every 20% interval, a piece breaks. These breaks are calculated previously, so to save on performance. However, they do fall to the ground, client side, in a very natural way. To optimize these, we made it so that it initially shows an entire mesh. And only when the rock gets hit the first time does it swap that one mesh out for 5 meshes that are pressed together and for all intents and purposes look exactly the same as the original mesh. However, it is 5 higher poly models pushed together so that they can break in a very natural way. On top of this, we needed a way to spawn the resources, and this is something that we're going to do differently to other MMOs, in a way that we feel will combat cheating and change predictability. We set a square zone where we would like resources to spawn. We tell it what resource we would like to spawn there and how many at any given time. Then, depending on whether it's a rock, a tree, a plant, or anything we want to spawn in, it will look at the landscape material around it and the surroundings, and it will spawn only in places that we will allow it to. However, this stops bots from being able to scan the files and see what spawn points are set. Spoiler alert, there are no spawn points set. They can't scour the files. Dungeons. Now, I almost didn't include dungeons, as this is something that I am currently working on as a visual. There is absolutely nothing to show you guys right now for dungeons on the front end. Next devlog, this will be changed though. There will be stuff to show you on the front of dungeons. What we did do in the dungeons is test out the voxel plugin. Now, we want to use voxel terrain because we feel that it gives the artist the utmost creativity to create landscape with the minimal limitations possible. This does, however, come with some caveats. First, we'll start with the positives, though. This allows you to use 256 material parameter textures all in one landscape. This means we can have massive diversity in the textures we use on the landscape, which is something that you can't normally do without a massive performance hit. This also allows us to do caves incredibly well along with vertical gameplay. Landscape normally stretches in the Z direction. That's not the case with voxel terrain. We can quite easily model terrain up and onwards, allowing once again for ultimate freedom for the developers. But that is where the positives end. This is where we found out that to be able to put foliage on the landscape, you needed the Pro version, which is £350. As you guys know, currently we're not accepting money, we are not accepting donations, and we are not looking for crowdfunding. Currently. So this goes against our motto. So it looks like we may have to scrap this plugin and move on to another one. We were told by the developer that there are plans to add more free features, and that foliage might possibly be one. However, that will be revealed in 2 months, and we can't afford to wait 2 months. As fantastic as this plugin is, we don't need any of the premium features of it other than foliage, which, as our team agree, is a very, very basic functionality of a landscape tool. Foliage is needed by almost every game. It does seem a little silly to lock it behind the premium version, and hopefully they do remedy that. But currently we're looking at building our own voxel plugin. It's going to take a few weeks and it's going to steal one of our developers away from the project. But if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. And if it turns out as well as we're planning, we might release it to the public. Now, this has all led to our first gameplay loop. You jump into the world, you pick up a set of tools, then you can mine and use the mined resources for smithing and construction. And then when you run out of resources, go mine some more. It's a very simple gameplay loop, but it is a landmark to get that first gameplay loop in. Now, to end the month on the programming team, we added a few smaller features as well. Daz added a minimap with north, south, east and west pointing the right directions, which is more than some games have. We also moved the build menu to be context-based. You can only access it while wielding the construction tools, the hammer. This menu will be used for other item-based menus in the future. It's a menu that you don't need to see unless you've got the tool required for it. And finally, the update you've all been waiting for. We added Borb bulbs. Just kidding. We switched out the player character for one made by our art director, Rotsu. And we also implemented some customization options. Not many, it's mostly just sex and skin color. We currently have male, female, and androgynous, and we have Caucasian and African skin colors, but we'll be adding more as we develop further. On this note, we took extra care with the African skin, as a lot of games just take the Caucasian skin color and hue shift it or layer a color modifier. This often causes the African skin tones to look very unnatural, incredibly dark, and not allow for you to show shadowing on top of it. Pretty much everyone in our team was sick of seeing this. WoW is the only MMO that we know so far that has done African skin tones justice. So we wanted to follow up with that. Now, before we move on to what the web and networking team were up to, I did briefly mention something about programming an XP skill curve. Yeah, it turns out maths is hard. I'll give a little insight into what that meeting looked like. That's a perfect XP curve. You've got 10 levels, 9 of them are a fucking breeze. The last one, you've just got to get like 1,000,000 XP.
So you have to divide something. That's clear. What it is that we're dividing is very unclear to me.
No, this one over here is.
No, don't. I'm not laughing at you, Daz. It's looking great.
I'm taking a wild fucking guess.
Still not quite there, lads.
Toodle pip.
No. That didn't work.
I've got side by side of the graphs, Daz, and it's looking pretty spot on.
You said that so seriously, and I'm so delirious. I thought you were serious.
Okay, so now you need n to go
Multiplied
n
by
plus
3.
n plus. No, it has to come off the float.
Oh, fuck.
I'm not doing exactly what Skyrim did. I'm doing my own.
What did Skyrim do? Because I'm sure it wasn't this anyway. Right.
Well, this equation, this is not how I would approach it at all. But I get it.
Fucking Da Vinci Code to work out RuneScape leveling.
I'm not totally understanding this equation, but the little bits I am understanding this equation, I'm like, this is not at all how I would look at it.
Just a question. You know those drop downs at the top with magnets? Do they need to be like something that isn't magnets?
Get float value. Here we go. In time. Okay. Okay, here we go. Time is going to be the x-axis, I think. Because it's a timeline, right?
It's a sideways M. That's what I thought it was.
That epsilon, actually.
So you have 300 times 2.
So
Good.
we need to do the exact opposite of this equation.
So yeah, that's roughly how that meeting went. Next up, over to the web team. Let's talk about infrastructure, a truly riveting topic. If we had chosen to do a single-player game, this might amount to a single-page website linking to our Steam page. If it was just a multiplayer game, we might have had a few official servers for people to play on, but as it turns out, we're absolutely insane and we're trying to build an MMO. I've told you about OWS and how it helps manage server instances. It also has a database for tracking inventories and characters' abilities. But that's only half the battle, I'm afraid. We're going to need to track logging in and out, who can access the game, and some way to disperse our world over a grand server infrastructure. OWS can help manage it, but we have to build it. For those of you that haven't met your technical jargon quota of the day, it's a front end of Next.js, which is a framework for React and will be what's running our website, and a back end of Golang with a Postgres database behaving as a master over our account system, all running in Docker container instances for easy server replication. We can't allow any of our server infrastructure to be monolithic or it would just become a point of failure. So in the end, we'll need a web of latticed servers. What all this means simply is, MMO infrastructure is hard. It's a tangled web of login servers, game servers, and account authentication, and requires precision orchestration to make a player's experience seamless. People who can do this kind of work successfully are the real unsung heroes, because if everything works flawlessly, you don't notice. Cannon, one of our developers, is to Anyday what Daz is to me. Him and Anyday have been poring over the documentation of OWS and talking with the creators. As we get closer to the finish line, it will be an all hands on deck to pull this together to give you this completely unnoticeable experience. And last but by no means least, art. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to Elite Portrait, who has made our NightmareWorld logo for us. He's done a fantastic job on it. Elite Portrait used to do artwork for Blizzard Spain, and it really shows with the quality of the work. Guys, check him out. I'm going to put a link in the description below. As for our team, this month the art team was mostly working on getting a proper workflow organised. Since it's the largest team of staff, we wanted to spend a bit of time making things run smoothly to avoid major tie-ups in the development process and prevent slowdowns in how things are done. Some boring work now to avoid problems in the future. After all, the factory needs to be built before a product can actually leave it. That's not to say we haven't done anything cool, of course. More concept art has been done up showing off some of the stuff we want to have in our vertical slice. Our 3D modelers have also taken some of that art and made it a reality, in the form of skilling tables. Not complete yet, but here are some of the pictures that have been floating around in the dev chat. And the star of the show is, of course, the character model. The super talented Rotsu worked on this thing through multiple iterations, at one point even losing all the progress, and delivered a really fantastic character template. We're really excited to finally be able to rid ourselves of the mannequin and replace it with our own art. It's starting to feel like our own game now. The artists are starting to really dial in their workflow now, so hopefully they'll have a lot more cool stuff to show next month. But for now, this is unfortunately all the big news for the art team. Things that are in the works and will be ready to show off soon are things such as modular pickaxe pieces ready for the modular smithing, character creation podium, and of course Sarah's making a lot of awesome plants for our gathering system. This month was mostly building out the backbone, and now that that's done, the sky's the limit. As always, a massive thank you to our Patreons. You guys are growing by the day and you're making these videos so much more possible. I also want to give a massive thank you to everybody who dropped into the 24-hour charity livestream. We raised a whopping £2,500 for Child's Play. That is over double what I ever expected we could do in that livestream. So a huge thank you to you guys for that. Guys, take care, and I will see you in the next one.